2-3, changes in climate. The climate on Earth has not always been the same, which we pretty much know from any type of history. And there are three main natural causes for these changes. The first one is the volcanic eruptions. When a volcano erupts, gases like carbon dioxide, which is one of the main greenhouse gases, are released into the air. And this will cause a trap in heat, and it can cause all kinds of long-ranging consequences. Ocean currents also change the climate. Oceans are the major source to absorb excess carbon dioxide in the air. But as the ocean gets warmer, it absorbs less carbon dioxide, and if it absorbs less, there's more of it in the atmosphere to begin with. Ocean currents also interact with the atmosphere, with our global winds, and this produces what is called the El Nino effect about every 2 to 6 years. And an El Nino causes a rise in temperature down by Panama, and that can cause things like droughts in other areas of the world. In the 80s, the United States had a major drought, and they think it came from the El Nino effect. The other thing that naturally occurs that causes changes in our climate is the Earth's axis. Now, we talked about the Earth's axis, that it is tilted. And I said, for the moment, we were just going to pretend that it stayed still, but it actually doesn't. It kind of rotates around. And so during times when the Earth's axis has a bigger tilt, then the summers are going to get hotter and the winters are going to get colder. And that's because you're closer or farther away from the sun, or more directly towards or away from the sun. And those cause major changes. Now, the Earth's axis, this is a very slow change. A volcanic eruptions, kind of a fast change. Now, all of Earth is part of one or more cycles. One cycle that we are part of is the Ice Age cycle, and we did a handout, causes of the Ice Age, and there are two main areas in the Ice Age. One, we have times of major glaciation, meaning their glaciers cover a big part of the world, and then we have an interglacial time, which is what we're in right now. We have where the glaciers are smaller and shrinking. Now, the glaciers, Ice Age is one of the reasons why where we live is nice and hilly, because it used to be mountainous, but then when the glaciers came through, it brought the mountains down to small rolling hills and gave us a lot of really nice soil, which it carried from north. The continental drift also is one of the cycles and affects our climate on Earth. And continental drift is where the continents are moving, and they move very slowly, just a couple centimeters a year. But the theory is they started from one really big supercontinent called Pangaea, and then Pangaea broke apart and just drifted across the whole world until the continents were where they are now. And the continents are still moving. And this drift causes a very slow, very, very slow, over billions of years, a very slow drop in temperature. But we all know that there is a human impact, right? We have, if we look at the temperatures over history, we have Earth temperature, average temperature, this is over the whole globe, kind of remains stable. There's a little dip, and that's during what is called the Little Ice Age. And when you see pictures of George Washington crossing the Potomac, and the Potomac is frozen, that was during the Little Ice Age, because normally the Potomac River does not freeze because there's too much salt in it. So we have this little dip they call the Little Ice Age. This was an El Nino effect. Then right when the Industrial Revolution begins, our temperatures start to go up. And this has caused some major concern about carbon dioxide and global Earth's temperatures. And if looking at this graph, anybody would be concerned because there is a noticeable increase. Not to say there isn't a problem. You definitely want to be very aware of how much carbon dioxide we are putting into the environment. But let's take a look at the science. This here is a graph of the temperatures of Earth over a longer period. This period right here in the yellow That is the part that we generally see when people start talking about how hot the Earth is becoming. So if we take a look over here, here's our little ice age, this little dip, and here's our Industrial Revolution and our rise in global temperatures. But now take a look if you go back over a longer period of time, and they measure these temperatures by taking ice core samples up in the glaciers. They drill big long cores of ice and they look at the ratios of different elements, and that tells them about the temperature of the Earth. And if you look back over a long period of time, you can see that even with the ice ages and with the warming of the Earth, we are part of a cycle. It comes up and down, and it was way high right at the beginning when the Earth was first formed, and then it cooled and cooled and cooled. We had some ice age, and then things were starting to stabilize, and then this was our good time when the weather was really nice and everything started to flourish, and then here we are right here with a little bit of an upswing. So human activity definitely does have an impact. During this Industrial Revolution is also when we started cutting down large pockets of the rainforest. Rainforest is another place where carbon dioxide gets used up. So we have been trying over time to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide we're putting into the atmosphere and try to reduce the number of trees and green vegetation that we're taking out, because that absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But I just don't want you freaking out, because the Earth is part of a large cycle, and even what we're doing here cannot explain the entire upswing. Okay, so that's the end of the section.